Welcome to another episode of Unbox Live. I'm your host, Nate Beck. Unfortunately, Rob couldn't be here today, so I'm going to be running this solo, and I'm very excited. I couldn't actually wait to light up what we are unboxing today because when I read the description on this cigar, I was very excited. And this cigar, I probably saw more buzz at PCA, which is the Premium Cigar Association show, for those of you that don't know. And we just had that in July. And I saw more Instagram buzz about this particular cigar than almost any other cigar. So I was very excited to see this come into one of our local shops here and to do an unboxing of Wildfire Cigars, the Revivalist. So you can see we got the Revivalist here. And I'd say maybe about 40% of the way in, and this cigar is absolutely fantastic. And I'm pleased to say that we have joining us today Jeremy McDonald, the owner and founder of Wildfire Cigars. Welcome to Unbox Live, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to have you here. So, man, this cigar is really, really good. One of my friends who's based out of California actually commented on my post for Unbox yesterday and said, love this cigar. So I was very excited and had a hard time not lighting one of these up yesterday. So this is a treat. And I got to say, one of the things and we talked about this just a couple minutes ago, one of the things that I really loved in reading the description about this cigar, because I've been a smoker for quite some time, you described this as having flavors of Nicaraguan cigars reminiscent of the late 90s and early 2000s. And my meter immediately went way up because that was when I first got into all Nicaraguan Puros. I was very excited. And this isn't an all Nicaraguan Puro, correct?
Correct.
But man, does this have a lot of those flavors. So maybe why don't you tell us a little bit about this cigar and kind of the makeup and construction, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, when you're launching a brand, right? And it's like, what cigar am I going to lead with? What's going to be the first statement I want to try to make? I just went back to, you know, what got me into cigars and the cigars that got me into it, you know, where it's like, you know, you have your first beers, but then you have that beer that's like, oh, I'm into this.
Yeah.
And like cigars, for me, I was dabbling around and it was the Hoya Classic.
Sure.
And it's not even on the market anymore. Well, it is, but just internationally, because it doesn't really it's not so much the profile that people are like looking for now. It's,
sure.
You know, people want a fuller, richer, stronger. And so I was like, man, I want to make a cigar that reminds me of what I got into cigars but with kind of a modern take on it, you know,
Absolutely.
like, so an updated, it's not as mild, you know. And so, yeah, I mean, like Hoya de Nicaragua I was talking to a couple different factories, and they were, you know, it's like when you apply for colleges, right? You have the one you want to go to, but you apply to a couple different ones.
Sure.
So I had conversations going, but as soon as they green lighted to like produce and manufacture Wildfire, I was like, oh, we're going to get to do exactly like what I want to do. So
you were super excited, I have to imagine.
Yeah, like it was so funny because like I think it's one of those memories that'll like forever be, because like Juan Martinez kind of handles everything, the son of Dr. Alejandro, and Juan was like vetting me, it felt like, for like
sure.
a couple days, kind of like, well, when when I first came to him, he thought I was trying to make he thought it was going to be for a lost and found because of my affiliation with Caldwell at the time.
Of course. Yeah.
And I was like, no. Like, I'm leaving, I'm going. And then he was like, I don't want to do anything shady behind anybody's back. And I was like, no. Rob's aware of this. Like, I'm like, I've everything's been on the up and up. I'm like, and he was like, okay. So they asked a series of questions. And then like, he called me back and he's like, Jeremy, we would be proud to make Wildfire cigars. And it was like I was made, you know, it's like I felt like I needed like an Adidas warm up. Like I just got grafted into the family and I was like, I fucking made it. I'm in the club.
Sweet. What's my new nickname?
Right. So, yeah.
I love it. So we've got on this cigar, we've got Mexican Claro wrapper, Indonesian binder, and then Nicaraguan fillers. Did I get that
so
right?
predominantly Esteli. There's a little bit of Cadega and Habano.
Yeah,
but all Nicaraguan.
Yeah, and I will admit I had seen the the 3 different flavor notes that you have on your website, but when I took the first couple puffs of this, I instantly got like Mexican chocolate or like Mexican hot chocolate kind of flavors going on here. A little bit of that spice and pepper on the retrohale, but just this creamy cocoa-y deliciousness. It's fantastic. I love this.
Well, thanks.
Rob is already in the comments telling me to save me one, so we got a whole box here, buddy. And everyone, please feel free to drop your comments into the chat. We'd love to get your comments and have Jeremy answer your questions and talk about whatever you're interested in. But this is a cigar that you're for sure going to want to search out and find. And Jeremy, you've been in this industry, what, 20 plus years or thereabouts?
I entered in 2000, late 2000. Yeah. So yeah, like almost 22 years now. And it's funny because there's been times like I've tried to leave.
Yep.
And then I get sucked back in. Like it just won't let go.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's like I got married or something and I didn't even know that I had said vows, but
right.
I'm in.
Yeah. And you started in a retail shop, correct?
I did. I got my wings at a retail shop and then repped. And then like, in the regionally West Coast, I'm out of California.
Sure.
And then started Caldwell with Robert Caldwell, and then did the national sales manager and was a partner to the brand. And so it's kind of been this, like, I'm like the spokesperson for the kid who doesn't go to college, but like ends up someplace. Like, I don't know how this happened, but I'm here.
Right. I wish we had more stories, especially since my kids and your kids, at least your oldest, are at that college age. I wish they had more examples and stories of people who had an experience like you, where if you don't go to college, because it's comically expensive, that you can actually have a really great, enjoyable life and really do some amazing creative things. You just have to maybe work a little harder, or you have to look in a little different direction. So I think that's really cool.
Well, yeah. I did go to college, but just not regular college.
Yeah.
I did. I mean, because seminary of some sort for a period, and then I dropped out.
Sure. And that's interesting because you and I have a lot of similarities in our life experience. You are a musician. I think you played in predominantly metal bands, correct?
Yeah, like punk, metal, hardcore punk, and then now it's kind of rock, but I still got an edge of the stuff that like I came up on. But like I'm sure for the stuff that I hear out there now, like I feel like it still has an edge, but to kids it's probably like soft rock elevator music at this point.
Right. Do you still play?
I do.
That's awesome. Matt and I were here trying to see if we could dig up some clips of your music and have some, some vintage pics of you. But you'll have to maybe send us some of your music so I can share it with the group here at Boveda.
Sure.
Yeah. In fact, we got a Matt, if you want to pop up Joe's comment. Joe says, Jeremy, got any recordings of your music out there?
Yeah, I actually do. The only stuff because now you have like Spotify and all this stuff, and the platforms are so easy. So it's like, I have demos and EPs and stuff and from bands I've been in, but most of that stuff never, it was like, didn't go anywhere, and it isn't up on any platform. But like over the past like 4 years, I've been playing with the band, and it's going through its phases, and it's active again now. But it's called Louder's the Roar, but it's on streaming platforms. So if you feel like hearing the angsty side of me, there it is.
Absolutely, man. I'll listen to it when I'm in the airport later today, heading out to a cigar event. And you and I also had a similar background. We both worked in a church setting and realized that, that was maybe not the career path for us to be doing that. And so we moved on to other things, other creative things. Is that shortly after? Did you immediately then end up working in a cigar shop after that, or did you have a little bit of time there?
Let's see. I was already smoking cigars, and I had to hide it.
Sure.
Because the denomination I was a part of, it was not friendly to tobacco. So I'm trying to think. It was probably it was less than probably under a year.
Sure.
From when I left to like starting actually in the cigar industry.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because I find that really in no other area or community do I get the kind of connection with my good friends and those that really have become family like I do with cigars. I mean, it's a really unique community where I have friends more so than if we're having cocktails or if we're out for dinner or if we're just hanging at each other's houses. When we light up cigars, friends share and feel comfortable to share things way more over a cigar than in any other aspect of my life. And I think it's one of the really beautiful things. And it's what really drew me to your story, in that you're looking to create something that makes those moments happen more so than even the cigar. You're creating that ability for people to have community and to have relationships. Correct?
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, like for me, when I look back at my 20 years, you know, and all the relationships I had prior to coming into the cigar industry, I was the only one of my friends. Well, me and my other friend smoked cigars. And at first it was like, you know, we bought a cigar on our birthday.
Yeah.
But then it was like, we want to smoke a cigar again, you know, but we had just come from, I had just come out of that kind of whole straight edge, because it was really big in Orange County where it was like no tobacco, no drinking, anything. Sure. So it was like this whole, like, I didn't have it on the moral convictions. I had it on this like, oh, dude, I'm not supposed to be like partaking in this kind of stuff.
Right.
But when we did, it was so amazing.
Right.
And like we loved. And so, you know, when I started fast forward to this brand, it was like, how do I create it? It's a product. So how do I make it experiential? Because that's what it is. It's just a tool. So, but how do you sell it as like, you know, trying to put it in people's minds that it's about the experience? Because now all my relationships have to do with people with cigars.
Yes.
And it's what we do. It's what my band does before we practice. We smoke a cigar.
Yep.
It's what, you know, my friends and I go have coffee and like we have a cigar, you know? And so it's just interesting how it all ended up changing around cigars, but it's like, I mean, it's just these conversations and moments and all these things you have. And I was like, that's what I want to make the brand about.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah. And I heard someone a few years ago talking about creating art specifically. And, you know, we have, I think, overall kind of a narrow view when we think of creating art. You know, our first images, you know, a painting or a sculpture or, you know, some type of live experience. But when you create a cigar like this, and when you have those kinds of moments with your friends, you're creating space for that art to be made. And it's so cool because when you have that space to be creative and to make new and interesting art all the time, people really open up and you see different parts of their personality. You see different parts of their background that maybe doesn't come out in their job or with their families. And it's really special. And so you're not only creating a work of art in a cigar like this, you're doing it in the community that you create when you enjoy the cigar.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got a good question here. Rob was wondering, his PCA booth was epic. Did he hire it out or build it himself?
I built that thing by myself.
That's
like,
fantastic.
That was the most, I was trying to find things that I wanted in the booth. The only thing I didn't make was the backdrop. Like we designed it and then had it made. But I was like, oh no, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. So then I was like, I'm just going to Etsy all this shit.
Yeah.
And so like I made the tree trunks, I made the campfire, and that because I was like, I don't want my booth to look like anything but a campsite, because like I wanted it to be immersive, right? You come in, even though it's small, and it's like,
yeah.
And it was like guy after, you know, they would come in and sit down and they're like, this is so bizarre. Like we feel we're like at this like campy campsite. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
Again,
now we're sitting around the fire. Let's smoke. Let's talk. Let's have a PBR. Like it was just, and so I was stoked that like what I had envisioned, it was able to come to life. So.
Well, and I love that because you create a space where barriers just fall down. People immediately have this nostalgic experience of sitting around their backyard campfire, or if they grew up going camping with their family, they now immediately have a comfort that they didn't have before walking in your booth. And I think that's really special.
Yeah. I mean, there was no cigars displayed. I mean, it was just like, just the campfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, but,
I love stuff like that steps out of kind of the proverbial, normal box. You're like, but what about your cigars? Yeah, it'll be cool. I want to create something else. I'm creating an experience here. The cigars will take care of themselves. If people find this experience to be really special, they're automatically going to ask about the cigars. And I have to imagine that's what happened.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, one of the guys walked that I was not doing business with yet. I mean, most of the show was new distribution for me. And he's like, he just came and sat down and he's like, you have a PBR? And, like, I mean, the industry is very like bougie, and I love my bougie whiskey and beers and all that stuff. But there's a time and a place for the type of like what. And so I'm like, yeah, you want one? And he was like, it's 10 a.m. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I do.
Yep.
So I gave him one. Then he's like, you make cigars? And I was like, yeah, you want to try one? And he was like, okay. And so then we just sat there and talked, and he's like, yeah, I want to bring this cigar in. Let's do this. There was no sales pitch. It was just, he was like enamored by the like simplicity of it. And he was like, and I was like, I just want to, and because I was explaining, like, I'm not looking for like big orders. I'm looking for guys that are willing to like help build this with me.
Sure.
So like, I want to, it's like a two-way vetting stream. Like, yes, there are bigger stores in some ways that could maybe get you more exposure and stuff like that. But it's like, that's not necessarily the way to build something.
Right.
So it was like, hey, if you want to have a relationship, then let's do something with this. And,
yeah. Oh, I dig that. And that's exactly how, like in my role here at Boveda, where I get to interact with, I have, I don't know, 1,000+ accounts. When I go into a shop, I'm not talking about Boveda right away, other than saying, hey, I'm Nate with Boveda. I want to hear their story. I want to listen to, what's going on in their day. I want to meet their staff. I want to spend, an hour or two at least. And if I'm having a really good conversation and we're really, really clicking, I might stay for 3 or 4 hours and move another appointment because I don't want to miss that moment. And I think if you leave that moment sometimes, and when you're at a show, sometimes you do have to kind of pop around. It's just the reality of, you're doing business. But if you can stay in that moment, to use that word, be present, you can really get some great connections with people. And then the next time you see them, even though you met them one time, man, they're locked in. You're like, you're good for life. And I think that's a really special thing. And for people that understand that, they tend to have really deep connections with people.
I agree. I mean, like there have been guys like I'm good at faces, but I mean, names, I'm not as good with.
Sure.
And it's like, but there are people that like I run into and they're, or like at the show, or just I come across and they're like, and I'm like, wait, we sat in your shop. I'm like, I don't remember your name, but like, I remember being in your shop and you brought out this whiskey and we polished the bottle. And like, we sat there and they're like, yeah, that was 7 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, that was a fun night.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, I haven't seen them in that long, but it's like there's a reference point. And the cool thing is that experience, like, it gave us, and what other industry really offers that, especially when it's a sellable, like a consumable product that you're selling, like it's like, it's based on, in large on the experience or the relationship you have with that specific, person. And that, whether like there's a store out here and by me, and they've done moderate with the brand. But I found out one of their guys behind the counter is a guitarist. So I invited
Sure.
him over to the studio, and like we started jamming just because we were getting along.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's
Yeah.
in the store, because there's this guy who's a champion for the brand now. And it
Right.
wasn't like I did that for that purpose. I was like, oh, you play music too? Dude, you
Absolutely.
got to come over to like the Wildfire headquarters, whatever you want to call it, because I
Yeah.
have a studio there. And I'm like, let's just play some music late at night. And he was
Yep.
like, I'm down. So like from that though, now as a result, and it's like, it's not a calculated, like if I do this, this will happen, or this. It's just
Yep.
the relationship. And now that guy is pushing the brand, and it's getting legs in the store in a way that it didn't have presently. And so it's just, it's rad that kind of stuff happens.
Absolutely. And what exactly happened in that scenario is you brought him just because of who you are into your story. And you had this similarity, and now you're jamming out in your studio, and this guy's like, this guy's great. I got to sell his cigars, man, because this guy's awesome. And once they're part of your story, now they have a reason to tell that story to other people by selling your cigar. They're like, oh my gosh, you guys got to meet this guy. He's amazing. We were jamming in his studio. He's awesome. You got to try this cigar. That it works wonders, but you're exactly right. You can't go in it with the sole purpose of trying to push more of your product or your service. You have to go in it with the relationship in mind first and foremost. And if you do that, I firmly believe every single time exactly what happened in that scenario is going to happen. They're going to buy into your story, and they're going to go, man, I got to have I got to be part of that. That's super cool.
Yeah. So it's a fun ride for sure.
Yeah. We got one question here from Benny Paddock over in Germany. Do you know Benny, Jeremy?
I do.
Yeah. So Benny commented earlier, and we won't put it up here, but he's like, basically says you got to ship your butt back to Berlin. So
yes.
So he misses you, but he's got a good question. Do you have international distributors for your brand yet?
I do not. 2023, then I will work at expanding that. But to me, the most important thing was like making sure that the accounts. So when I launched the brand in September of last year, I was like, I can open up 30 accounts, right? That's minuscule, and then I was like, let me see. Then I have to monitor how it turns and make sure that I have the product to fulfill those 30 accounts.
Yep.
Then it was like, okay, I can scale up to the next level, and I can open up. So like I came to the show, opened up another 20 plus accounts. And then it's like, okay. And just because the pipeline is still hard on a contract brand to get, well, on everyone, but especially a contract brand, because you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Sure.
My refill, like my orders go in, but right now it's a 7-month turn around before I get it. So I have to project, okay, I have to be able to maintain these guys, and I'm not getting a shipment for 7 months.
Yeah.
So my next shipment is showing up in November, which then is scaled up again. So then I can, 2023, then I will scale up. So like I won't be at Intertabac this year, but like next year, and there are people that like I have worked with Caldwell and stuff like that like their phones will be ringing.
Yeah.
But I just need, if I can't supply here, what's good does it do to send it over?
Totally agree. Yeah, so I totally understand. Yeah. Matt, can you pop up Rob's comment? I like this. So Rob's got another question. Based on what we were just talking about, do you think the only way to be a champion for a brand is to have an intimate experience?
Yes, we all have to have sex.
I love it.
No, you know what? We all have to have a big old group orgy. That's how it's going to work. No, I mean, I think that definitely helps. But I mean, like, look, for me, for example, like, I mean, I'm smoking a Candela Illusione right now. Yeah. I don't have any intimate experience to this cigar, but I love it.
Sure.
And I'm out of my samples right now too. But I mean, I smoke other people's cigars. I love the guys at Illusione. And so in part, I like to support them because of the relationship. But even before I had any relationship with them, I smoked their shit like crazy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and I don't think a lot of people have an intimate relationship with Dion. So No, you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's just like there's it's like music, right? You can come across a band and you love their music and you know nothing about them, and then you see them live and it can just get deeper. But
Yeah.
like, no, I think it's a different type of champion.
Sure.
There's
And I think most of our interactions are not going to be that intimate experience. But when you have that one that goes a little deeper and you really make that connection, those are the ones that really stick with you for a long time. And you find that those people are longtime champions for you, as opposed to like, a big fan or just a fan of what you have. And the weird thing is you can't go essentially looking for those. A lot of times they happen so organically that you're like, all of a sudden you're in the middle of one of those experiences and go, oh, this is really pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking about having beers in the backyard. In my previous career before this, I had the good fortune to work with a lot of exceptional beer producers. And most of the events I did with that business were craft beer related. The guys that I smoke cigars with now, we sit in the backyard and we crush Coors Banquet, High Life, PBR, Hams, is a classic up here in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to drink those because it's really easy, just kind of in the background. It tastes delicious. It's crushable. You're not going to be wasted after, 3 beers, and you can have a really good time. And it's not so fancy. You're just enjoying the experience. And sometimes a lot of cigars, you're not really paying attention to what that cigar tastes like or what the experience is. It's part of the experience. Mm-hmm. And I think that also hits on Rob's point where everyone isn't going to be super intimate, but you might have that one occasion where, conversation goes really deep. And those are the things that really stick with you.
Agreed.
Yeah. And we've got Zach Harpold popped in and he says, I'm super in, if we can pop this up, I'm super in for an intimate experience as long as Jeremy and Nate are both there. So thanks for joining us, Zach. You're awesome as well, man.
I'm in, Zach.
Yep.
I love him.
I do too, man. He's such an awesome dude. I love all the staff over at Caldwell. They're such great people.
That's been one of the funniest things that like people assumed because so many things have gone awry in this industry, like breakups,
Mm-hmm.
when companies split off and stuff. And it's like, even at this show, especially last year, but even here, they're like, so what's really the story and this and that? I'm like, man, if you don't fuck over your friends, you don't burn the bridges, they support you. And it's like,
yep.
The relationship I have with Zach and, like they were guys I was giving the pre-release stuff that I wasn't even sampling out. Sure. Because it's like, I care about them. I want to hear what they have to say.
Yep.
Like about what I'm doing. And if they were, and like Rob sat down and I gave him one and like that dude will not feather anything. If he doesn't like it, he's just going to go, nah, like it didn't work or whatever, but that's what I love. It's like, oh, I'm going to get an honest, take from these guys. And
yeah. And you trust them. Yeah. They're family now. And Zach is one of the first people I see at any of the, TPE or PCA. And not only is he extremely generous, but he's one of the first people I see. I'm a big fan of hugs, so give him a big hug. I look for those friends that I can give a huge hug to, like not the silly side hug baloney, like good full-on hugs that just make you feel great. And Zach's one of those
man hugs. Good
yes.
Early. Yeah, no.
I firmly believe we need more of that. And let's end with one more question. Rob has a really good one. We'll pop this up. Is there anything, Jeremy, that you've said yes to and regretted? And also, what is the craziest yes experience that you've had?
I mean, the first part, 100% that I have said yes to and regretted. The craziest yes experience that I had. Dude, this is a deep rabbit hole. I don't even know where to go with this or like how rated what level of rating we're supposed to go. Let's just put it at this.
We'll keep it PG for YouTube if we can. Yeah,
I have done. I'm not a shy person.
Sure.
And I'm also a little whore for money, especially when I was working retail because, you don't make that much.
Sure.
So I got offered one night, the shop I worked at, there's a dive bar in the same complex. and I got offered $100 to run naked into the bar. And so I did. And I knew the bartender because it was in the complex, but it definitely turned some eyes. And, you know, the reason I regret it, I mean, I made the $100 and it was like for 20 seconds of work. It's not a bad deal.
Right.
But I mean, you know, then you think about it and you're like, oh, I could have been put on like Megan's Law if I got caught for that. You know, it's like, because I wasn't just streaking down the street with my buddies in the privacy. Like I went into a business butt ass naked, and I had to shake and get their attention.
Stuff could have gone sideways for sure.
Could have gone super sideways. But she said the bartender came back over to us and said, you owe me drinks for having to see that.
At least.
And I was like, you know, fair enough. All right, guys, let's all go over there. Drinks are on me. Like we'll get a shot to so that could have gone, you know, I mean, I don't know if I regret it because like I didn't get caught, but you know, it probably wasn't the smartest move. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. Well, let's kind of wrap this up here and let Jeremy, if you can let people know what sizes of this cigar you can find and how many different blends you have in the market right now that people can go and look for.
So the Revivalist comes in 3 Vitolas. They're all slightly off kilter on size, but I mean, that's you got a Corona Gorda, essentially a Robusto and a Toro. And that is what's on the market right now. I have stuff coming to market, but it is not ready. So I didn't announce it at the show, and I'll keep it under wraps until it's actually happening. But I'm excited. Sure. It's an LE series that'll have 3 different cigars in it.
Cool.
And then, you know, the beginning of next year, I'll have my next core line coming out from Hoya, and that cigar is a banger. So
awesome. I can't wait to try them, man. This is one of the better cigars I've had in a long time. Really, it in a nostalgic way, it takes me back to some of the early years of smoking cigars, just with the flavor profile, the size of this cigar. I love the Corona Gorda size. I'm a big fan of typically, the smaller classic Cuban cigar sizes. And this creamy cocoa, just some spice on the retrohale is just fantastic. So great job with this cigar. And thank you so much for coming on board, Unboxed, and answering our questions and telling us some of your story. This has been an absolute blast. How can people find you on social media and on the internet?
So on Instagram and Facebook, Wildfire Cigars. If you want to see more bizarre and humorous content on Instagram, you have the California Hillbilly, which is my personal profile.
Sure.
And then the website is wildfirecigars.com. And on that, if you're looking for where to get the cigars, there is a shop locator, so you can find I got to update it from the show. So that'll be done this week.
Awesome.
So you can see right there, like where, and it even shows the stores if they have an online option.
Sure.
So if there's not a retailer near you, you might be able to find one that like will ship to you.
Sure.
So
that's awesome.
So yeah, that's all the little fires.
Awesome, man. Well, again, Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on Unboxed today. It was a pleasure to have you join us. For all of you out there watching, subscribe to the Boveda channel, click like, so you get notified whenever we're having new content. We put out new stuff every Friday. In addition to our Unbox Lives, you can follow us, watch our Box Press podcast with Rob, and be sure to join us in 2 weeks for Unbox Live again. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us, and it's been a real pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Cheers, everybody. Thanks so much for coming.